Marty and Cindy from the league. They will be taking and screening the questions for our candidates. We have our timekeeper here, who, Leslie, both of you, Leslie, and they will be letting the candidates know when they have 1 minute, 30 seconds, and out of time. And if you can't read the words, it's green, yellow, and red.
I'm colorblind, so.
Okay, and I will catch you up if you will, so you can be prepared for that. And we have our runner here who will be coming around. If you need more cards, pencils, anything to write your questions, please let us know. And we are going to start first with the county auditor position. There are 3 individuals running for this office. Elaine Barnett, who is a Democrat, Linda Fraley, who is a Republican, and Chris Hicks, who is a Republican. Ms. Fraley was planning to be here tonight, but was not able to. She sent a short statement. I would like to read that for you. I understand Tom Niehaus told you last Saturday about my brother Jerry passing away earlier that morning in Florida. At this time last week, I was looking forward to participating in the league's candidate forum. As you can imagine, Jerry's death changed everything. I will now be in Florida with my family and unfortunately unable to attend. I trust you and your fellow league members will understand. I apologize for not being at the forum and appreciate the efforts that went into planning the event. So Linda will not be here, and I would ask that you keep her and her family in your prayers tonight as they deal with this. So we will have Mr. Hicks. And as we start, the first thing, as I announced, will be your 4-minute opening statement. So if you would like to begin.
Well, thank you very much. I want to thank the league. I want to offer my sympathies to Ms. Fraley in the loss of her family, of her brother. I am Chris Hicks, and many of you have probably heard of me in good ways and in bad ways. And I want to tell you a little bit about me, and hopefully it'll be a good opportunity in this forum to get to know me. I'm a 52-year-old businessman. I've lived in Union Township for, it'll be 22 years on tax day. We moved in on April 15th, which is tax day. And I look at our county both as some great progress having happened, but that there is tremendous untapped potential. I think a lot of that untapped potential is a result of the fact that our county is too much a good old boy network. So my focus when I got involved in the Republican Party and in this race for auditor is on how we can take our county forward in 2 key ways. One is to add efficiency and move our functions into the 21st century. Right now, in many aspects, we are behind the times. The second thing is to instill within our county, and frankly within the Republican Party, which dominates in our county, a commitment to honesty and integrity. For my whole life, since from back when I was in high school, and there's a couple people that went to high school with me here, I have been a person who has always been focused on the right thing, how we have transparency, how we have honesty, how we have integrity. Now, those of you that know me, watch me, look at my webpage at hickswatchdog.com, you know well that I'll bring up points. But I ask you to look at the points that I bring up. They're always heavily researched. If anything, when you look at something I bring up, you're amazed at how many links there are to supporting documents. The old boy network in our county holds us back. The auditor is a key element in that. Let me tell you why it's so important to me to be your next auditor here in Clermont County. Commissioners make policy decisions. The treasurer holds the money. The auditor is the function in the middle that doesn't hold the money, doesn't make the policy decisions, but is absolutely instrumental to making sure we have a clean system and an efficient system. They're the chief financial officer for the county. They have something on the order of more than 150 responsibilities. They're key to being able to, for you and elected officials, to have the insights they need to make better decisions for the people. Many of you might know that I got involved when I found out that there was a backroom plot to subsidize pro sports in FC Cincinnati moving a practice field here. The thing that astounded me wasn't just the backroom nature of it and the dismissive nature towards the people, but that many of the Republican leaders in my township, in Miami Township, and the townships affected, had no idea what was going on. The Republicans were keeping secrets from other Republicans. That's got to change. I want to change that as auditor to make sure that you know what's really going on, and that you have the insights to help you as citizens know where your money's going. Most people in this room probably have no idea how much money the county spends or where their money's going. That's wrong. And the elected leaders also are in a position where they don't have the right insights to make better decisions. My background is as a management consultant. I love to go work on problems. We got lots of little problems in the county that could be worked on, like a series of management consulting projects to move us to the next level. It's my first time to run for office. First time to run for office, and I want to be able to show people what bringing that business experience to our county and that commitment to honesty and integrity can do for us in Clermont County to move us forward quickly. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Hicks. You ready? We'll move on to the first question.
Do it.
First question is, if elected, will you be full-time?
Absolutely. So, how many people know how much I'll ask rhetorical questions. You're not allowed to answer, breaks the rule. How many people know how much the auditor gets paid? Okay, so about $100,000, it gets phased in. So the auditor should be a full-time job, Many people know one of the secrets, and I apologize, I'm going to say some things that people could say, you're attacking, you're doing this. Well, I'm telling the truth. Many people know that our current auditor usually spends winters in Florida. Okay, she's been in office for 24 years. She's looking for years 25 through 28. The auditor's job should be a full-time job here, using that person's skills to move us forward. I have the skills to move us forward, and I'm going to be totally focused on this. I don't let myself fail. I haven't done it with clients. I'm not going to do it with our county. I'm not going to do it with the auditor's office.
Thank you, Mr. Hicks. The next question has two parts to it. I'll read both parts and you can answer it as you wish.
Sure.
First part, what is not happening now that should be happening in the office, and what is happening that should not be happening?
Okay. So there's many things that I think are not happening. Hopefully I answered the right order. Okay. That are not happening that should be happening. And I give these examples. The Ohio Online Checkbook, Josh Mandel pioneered that instrument which lets you go on and in using a common approach across all levels of your government, be able to see where money's getting spent, to evaluate what's going on. We have not populated that since 2014. Okay, some places like Milford, where we're sitting, keeps theirs almost up to date currently. So that tool is something that's not happening that should be happening. Okay, similarly, there used to be a report called the Popular Financial Report that was a 30 to 40 page summary for citizens to show you how your money was getting used. That report has not been made since 2012. So that's something that's not happening that should be happening. But I want to go a little deeper. I'm going to turn around just for a second. I don't know why this is here. But there's a physician's desk reference back here in the Milford Council table. So I just want to use it as an example. So if I'm a management consultant, I came to you in a modern era and said, we've done some great management consulting work. Here's the report. You know what happens then? I lose a client. The job in today's world, what we need as citizens and what our elected leaders need isn't volumes of data. Like now, because there's not a Popular Financial Report, you have to go out and look at the full report, which is hundreds of pages. It's not the right level of insight. We need to have more insight for our elected leaders and for our citizens to make better decisions. Now, what is happening that shouldn't be happening? Okay, that shouldn't be happening. That was the second part, right? So I find that there's just too many insider, what I describe as sketchy things that happen in our county government. So let's start with the Convention and Visitors Bureau, where I started getting involved. It got taken over by elected officials. Over a 5-year period, it spent just under $3.5 million. To this day, they won't tell us who got paid the money. Okay, I found 2 crony contracts that went through that. Those transparency things, those things like letting us see what's going on, staying away from sketchy things, not just avoiding impropriety, but avoiding the appearance of impropriety. Those are things that are not happening today. We're not holding ourselves to the highest standard. It's especially important in our government, which I hope stays Republican dominated, okay, that we hold ourselves to the absolute highest standards. We don't do things that are sketchy. We stay away from them. We don't offer explanations as to why it was okay. So that's something I think is not happening, is us holding ourselves to the highest standard within that process. There's a lot of other little things that aren't happening too. You know, things like, I still think, I'm trying to figure it out still, you know, because my dog already has a good dog tag, but less than 40% of the people in our county buy dog tags. I like to use this as a simple example. It's a very minor function in the auditor's office. But the process to buy dog tags is way too complicated. You ever hear that saying about if you go in a restaurant and the bathrooms are dirty, what do you think the kitchen looks like? So something that we all interact with, that we should if you have a dog, I'm the watchdog, if you're gonna buy dog tags, and it involves printing out a manual form and mailing it in, that's 1990s. That's not 2018. So those are the things that aren't happening, is that level of efficiency, focus, moving us forward, and starting to have a system that's run more like a business for you to interact with than a government operation.
Thank you, Mr. Hicks. The next question. What has been your board and volunteer service in your community?
So I get asked this question because I have not been involved in any boards in Clermont County. I have not been involved in any boards in Clermont County. And here's the shocker, I'm proud of that. I'm proud of that. I really take my hat off to people that do volunteer work on boards. I don't mean to disparage all the great work that happens or any people involved in that great work. But we have sort of a little crony old boy system in Clermont County. Same names showing up on every board, same names going around and involved in all these little things. I've always been a person that chooses to spend a lot of my time on causes. But most of the time, those causes aren't by virtue of some institutional charity. I'll give some examples. I want to give some examples. And I'm going to go all the way back to high school. I went to McNicholas High School. I graduated in 1984. In high school, there was a class called Social Justice. Ronald Reagan was president, and it's when some people in America thought the Sandinistas in Nicaragua were the second coming of Jesus Christ. Okay? I led a group, including parents, that got that class changed. That's high school. Now let's go forward in time to 2011. I don't know if people know this. I don't think about this. I don't know how many people's kids go to parochial schools, Catholic parochial schools. My kid did. Prior to 2011, the Archdiocese of Cincinnati did not allow parents to see the curriculum for kids within K through 8 schools. It was against the rules. I found out about it, my kid went to St. Veronica, I found out about it from a parent named Sean Baxla, if somebody knows here, about it, and she said, I said, that's ridiculous. And she said, you're never gonna get them to change. It took about 6 months, I got about 30 people to help, and I still have a letter to this day in my address drawer from the Archbishop saying we're not gonna change, and they did. And now, you can go see the Archdiocese curriculum for K through 8 schools anytime you want online. I'm gonna give a third example of how I spend my time, just currently. There was a project in Newtown, Ohio, where the government was gonna let a private school take over a park. I didn't agree with that project for many reasons, One is it didn't make sense. The school didn't have the money, the park was a former landfill, etc. So I worked with some people in Newtown, and that project got canceled just last week. So that's gone away. And then I'm going to give you the last example of how I spend my time. Where I think I do a lot to contribute to our community. I'm the one that found out about the government having taken over our CVB, our Convention and Visitors Bureau. What did I do? Well, you can go online and read 4 opinions from Attorney General Mike DeWine calling out our county for those people being involved with that board, service being improper. They're all off the board now. They're all off the board. And our CVB board is much more industry people now than government insiders. So these are the kind of things I do. I see things more like a project. I see things like a consultant. And I see the issues we have in our county like a project. Let's take our county to another level and focus in on prioritizing what are the issues within our county and that the auditor affects, and working them one by one until we can move our county really to the place it deserves to be.
Thank you, Mr. Hicks. The next question. As county auditor, What standard will you hold yourself and those around you to ensure that there is never impropriety or even the appearance of it?
So that's a great question. So I always hold the funny part, anybody, you can talk to my wife's back there, or talk to people that know me, I hold everybody to the same standard. Go talk to my wife. My wife, she would tell you, he holds me to the same standard he holds everybody else to. I have very high standards in terms of honesty and integrity, transparency. Now, all that being said, all institutions are human. I'm human. One of the things that every person who's human does is make mistakes. We all make mistakes. So when you consider that and you think about the standard to which we need to hold ourselves to, we need to, on one hand, have a very high standard of honesty and integrity, but we also need to realize it's human institutions. So the key thing is we've got to have the right checks and balances in place. The checks that I've always, it's funny when over the last year when all these things happened with Harvey Weinstein and all that kind of stuff, I have never had a male friend that would tolerate anything remotely like the things I was hearing about in the press and on TV, ever. If I had a male friend that knew of some other person it would be totally unacceptable. Why? Wise counsel and checks and balances. So you have to have people of integrity, and you have to have the right kind of checks and balances in place so that we keep ourselves accountable. What happens is, two things that are very dangerous is when we don't have checks and balances in place. And when we have a one-party system, it's even more important to have checks and balances in place. The second thing that's very dangerous is people that can't admit that they make mistakes. When people can't accept and admit that they make mistakes, they get themselves into trouble. It's an arrogance about it. So today, we're still fighting over whether we're allowed to know where the CVB money got spent. Why can't somebody just admit it was a mistake to keep it secret from us and let us see it? So I can assure you that I will hold myself, those people around me, to the highest standard and make sure that the office has the right checks and balances in it, and most importantly, that the auditor's office is a check and balance within our county government. Remember, the auditor doesn't hold the money, doesn't make the decisions. They're meant to be a check and balance. Those of you who work in private enterprise, what's an auditor do? It's different in government, but the whole point is independence, integrity, and that's where we need to be. I say if you go look at my website and stuff, I say that I would never serve on a board with another elected official unless it was legally required. Because I think that's the way it should be, to maintain that independence, not get into, Linda Fraley and David Hubel and other people from the government, we're all serving on the CVB together. It gets conflict of interest in your mind. You don't know who you're loyal to. So you gotta have the discipline to maintain the checks and balances and hold yourself to the highest standard.
Thank you, Mr. Hicks. The next question's a little bit long, so
Uh-oh.
read it if you need it.
But I'll write it down with you.
It's not that.
Is it in 14 parts?
Okay. The county auditor's office by law has oversight of all the financial books and records of all of the offices of the county and is charged with administering the budget. If elected, how will you keep a distance between those departments and areas in the county of which you will have oversight?
Okay, so I hope I answered this question. I don't take the full import of the question, so I'm going to try to just address this topical area of separation of functions, trying to avoid conflict of interest. First off, I want to make one clear statement. The government is your government. It's not the government of the people you elect. They're there just as placeholders. It's your government. It's your money. So the first thing I would commit to, and I'm going to come as I come around for the separation and so forth of these functions and how proper oversight within that, is it's your money, it's your government, and you deserve 100% tax dollar transparency. 100%, no excuses. Now, There are limitations. There are some very slight limitations because the law allows government to keep certain things. You've agreed that you let them keep it, like personnel matters. If the commissioners were dealing with a personnel matter, okay, to keep that, the name out of something that's going on and so forth. But when you look at the budget on all these functions, the budgets and so forth, what I want to do, beyond the point of keeping these functions separate, clear, making sure there's the right budgetary authority, I'm much more of a person that is a justify what we're spending, not look at it from year to year and what % increase should we have year to year. We have a lot of, one of the things in business that you sit back and say is, what are the 2 or 3 things we want to be known for? We do them really well. They stand out. If I said Warren County, you would say tourism, right? Kings Island, the beach, that's one of their things they stand out as doing really well. What do we stand out and do really well? What are we committed to? And do our budgetary priorities align to those things? When I look at all these agencies, some of them are these quasi-governmental things, like the CVB, where there's government money goes into them. Any place there's government money going, you deserve to know where that money's going. And you also deserve to have something I would put in place on these groups, performance metrics. So if they're spending your money, what are we getting in return for that? What's the result being generated? That's a business mentality. I'm shocked in some functions, even in business sometimes, people don't even think about what's the performance metric I'm going to hold myself accountable to. Every part of our government needs to have that. It has to have that mentality of what's the performance we're holding ourselves to, what's the result we're going to deliver with the taxpayers' money. And when we don't deliver the result, we try to work to figure out how we improve. So I see one of the roles in terms of the different functions of our government and the budgets and the financial process and financial reporting around them is to not just the basics of the financial reporting, but what are the performance metrics and optics that help you to feel comfortable that the money is being used effectively and appropriately in all of those functions.
Thank you, Mr. Hicks. Next question. Many real estate values went up 15 to 20% this year, driving tax increases that surprised many. Do you know why?
I don't know 100% why. So obviously, I live in Union Township. So obviously, my house value went up 20%. My real estate value went up 20%, which drove about a 10-12% increase in the taxes. I'll tell a quick story around this. It's like 4 minutes. I'll tell a quick story. My wife and I have a condo in Florida. And in Florida, and I don't think I would never do something that was illegal, okay? But in Florida, what happens is you get your property tax bill not that long after the election. So in November's the election. If levies got passed, they very quickly turn it around. And you get offered that if you pay it now, you can take a 2% discount. If you pay it this time, you get a 1% discount, so on and so forth. Well, in our county, because we never have these numbers, I'm a person that likes to pay my taxes ahead so I can take the tax deduction. So what do? Because I don't know what my new bill is going to be. I pay last year's number, then I get a bill that's for the big number, then I get a settle-up bill, lots of transactions. I'm a business guy. Every one of those transactions could be costing us $20, $30. So the people in Florida, I don't think it's legal in Ohio to do what they do in Florida, but it's a great approach. Get the people to pay it quick and be done with it. Give them 1% off and be done with it, so it's not stretching out transaction after transaction after transaction. So this year, when I got my bill, I paid, and then I get that settle-up bill, and it was like $400 or $500. To be honest, I didn't even think about it. I just paid it. Okay? And then I was going around to Fish Fries. And some of the retired people at Fish Fries were talking to me about how they were shocked at how much their property taxes went up and that they couldn't afford it. I had a woman in Goshen tell me that her actual story was, I just want to die in my house. She was 82. I don't even maintain my house properly now because I don't have the money to do it. And my property taxes went up $400 a year and I don't have the money. And it was sobering to me. There's one thing to say we sent out a letter, or we did this telling you that your values are going up, but I think people deserve more of an explanation of what's going on. I actually, because I had to do a public records request to get it, because you can't see it anywhere easily that I could figure out, by class of property, what happened with our property values. So it has here by township. So, Franklin Township's property values on average went up the most. Ohio Townships went up the least. Okay? And then I broke it down by residential, agricultural, and commercial and the total impact. So a lot of places, the property values went up. The average for increases in residential property were 14% across the whole county. The average for commercial was 7% across the whole county. The average for agricultural was -7, which is actually a good thing, because there's changes to the agricultural value that are being phased in because a lot of farmers from, I'm trying to remember the years, but I think it was 2002 to 2014, their taxes went up over 300% because of the way agricultural values were being done. Now this, I can't do this like for like, but this is the kind of stuff I want to do as auditor, so that you can see. The funny thing is, none of us like to pay taxes, right? I know we have, hold on a second, I know we have Republicans and Democrats here, so I'm a Republican. I like to pay my fair share, things, but I like to make sure we're efficient. None of us like to pay taxes. The other thing though is, one of the things behind that is almost as much as the taxes we pay, is that we want to know it's fair. That I'm not being gouged compared to somebody else. Somebody else isn't getting a special deal. That I can go look and see what were the average values, the like for likes, like you can on a Zillow online for commercial real estate. We need to be thinking more like that for what's going on. So our property tax increases, to me, need more justification. I've done what I can do thus far with the data that I can get from the auditor's office. Which, by the way, I'm glad to share with anybody. It's actually online too.
Thank you, Mr. Hicks.
Thank you.
Next question is maybe related to the previous one. Is it better to have property valuations done internally or via a third-party appraiser?
That's a good question, which I will reserve my ultimate judgment on. Okay, so the auditor has put out that in the next reappraisal in 2020 that she's taking all or part of it, some part of it in-house. Okay, and I talked to different people. I was talking to somebody at one of the pizza parties that was involved in real estate appraisal just last night, and I think we need to look at it. Definitely some of the algorithmic tools that are being used in the commercial space, like a Zillow, okay, is probably better than a human, okay, because it's taking so many factors that a normal person couldn't. There's something for the thing, the guy looks at it and says this is what it's worth, or looks at a few things. But when you have a computerized system in the modern era, when you look at real estate values, for example, on something like Zillow, there's going to be exceptions. But it's going to be using the same algorithms across the board. So when you say inside, whether it's taken done in-house or out or not in-house, I almost said in-house or out-house. If it's done in-house or not in-house, I think that's something that needs to be looked at. Another thing we need to look at in this county is there is an option to do the valuations a third, to spread them across years and not do them all at the same time. Okay? What it can do is balance out the personnel cost. One of the things I learned in Hamilton County from my good friend Representative Tom Brinkman is that they were, the way the valuation worked, it was like the third year the people that did the valuations went and played golf and hung out at the golf course for the year. Okay, because the valuation is a 3-year thing, but there's an option to do it a third, and then there's 1 year where they have to do like 2/3, and so there's some things like that. I think we need to look at what gives the fairest appraisals. Okay, that are the most defensible and justifiable. You got to have the exception process for deal with the mistakes like we do now in there. And we also need to look at innovation that maybe spreads out the workload across the years and rolls things in over time versus just being on a pure 3-year schedule.
Thank you, Mr. Hicks. On to the next question. What is your view on double dipping, that is collecting a salary and a pension while in office?
Okay, so I know that so I think, what's his name? Senator Seitz, it's Senator, I think, Senator Seitz, announced that, which is like, I guess, northern Cincinnati. Look at Mr. Painter to see acknowledgement. So northern Cincinnati, someplace I don't live. So announced that he was retiring, but he's running. He's retiring and running. And this is what double dipping is all about. The politician that hits their 30 years in the Ohio pension system, they can retire. If they're retired for 90 days, then they can come back, they can reassume their job, and they get paid basically a pension and a salary. It's not illegal, but we have a right to know, okay? On roles like a state rep or something like that, you know because since they get sworn at the beginning of January and the election's in November, they need to resign before the general election. They have the 90 days. When does an auditor take office? March, okay? So an auditor can actually resign after the election and then begin double dipping and get sworn in. Now, again, it's not illegal. We can all have our judgments as to whether it's ethical or not ethical, okay? Whether it's right or wrong, but I just think we deserve to know. Now, I've asked Ms. Fraley multiple times and she will not answer. I know that in 2014, she purchased credits in the OPERS system. Elected officials can purchase credits. Elected officials can purchase credits, and those credits then can boost them up to the 30 years. One of the things about the way the pension system works, I'm a business guy, so I'm 52. So there's no way, if I get elected, there's no way I'm going to spend 30 years in any office. Okay, my retirement's going to be based on what I've put aside in Social Security, not on a pension plan. But what happens is the system pulls, once you're in office, and I'm not making a ding on people in office, you start building up your pension through OPERS, and that's why you have people that have to stay in politics for 30 years, because they want to maximize their OPERS potential in their retirement. Personally, it's unrelated to auditor, but I don't think there should be a separate retirement system for elected officials. I think they should be under the same retirement system that all the rest of us are.
Thank you, Mr. Hicks. Before we proceed, I would just ask you that as you're answering the questions, that there not be any attacks on another candidate, especially if they're not here. So if you could gauge your responses maybe in a different way, we would appreciate that. And I'll go to the next question. Is our system state of the art? Why or why not?
Is our system state of the art? So what is state of the art? So what's the system that you think of? Think about somebody you interact with that's the best state-of-the-art system you deal with. Okay? It's probably something in the commercial sector. It's probably not Spectrum Cable. Apologies to anybody who's Spectrum Cable here. It's probably not private sector things that have monopolies on your services. It's probably private sector things that have to compete. So today I was actually checking some auditor websites because I was checking something out about homestead exemptions and so forth. So I had the opportunity to spend some time today going to 6 different auditor websites. And the funny part is some of the small counties have systems that appear to me to be way better than what we have. They might not be. Maybe it's an illusion to me. But where I could find more information and more relevant information than I can on our site more easily. So here's my thing. I say this to people is we need to benchmark ourselves and see every other county as a competitor. And are we better or worse than they are? Because if we are not better than them, we should strive to be better than them on the things that we think are important. So if in Hamilton County you can buy your dog tags in one smooth transaction all online, we should want to be that. Okay? If in Adams County they have excellent descriptions for the taxpayer of what's changed about their tax values, we should want to be that. I come from a management consulting background. One of the things you do in management consulting is, anybody that's been to a pizza party knows I say this every now and then, shamelessly steal the best ideas. Always be benchmarking yourself against others. Always. One of the things that happens, I think, in the auditor's office is a lot of the relationships are based on vendor contracts. So we have, if you look at like our website, it'll have a name of a vendor that provides the software on it. You go to other counties, look at the name provides the software. One of the things you need to do, that's critically important. But it's also important that you don't become enslaved to vendors that get behind the times. Some of you might work in companies where maybe your financial systems or something are long in the tooth, antiquated, not state of the art, and you know how hard it is to transition when you let it get too old. I think our system is not at all state of the art. Things like how you pay bills. I had somebody, I think yesterday, saying, why don't we have more of a one customer experience for things across the county government? I don't know. We can't do things that are illegal or improper, but we need to be interjecting our system with the idea of we want to have an experience for our customers that are the citizens. I view people as customers that is exceptional, that makes people say, I want to do business and work in Clermont County because what they do is better than what I see in other counties. And I don't mean better like backroom good old boy network better, they cut me a deal in the back room. I'm talking about a smooth system that is state of the art, that lets you see something. I'm going to give a real quick example. I just pulled up the card for 1 minute. I went to one site that said you want to see like lots, and you could pick a town and pick an intersection. And then I found out a lot of that, there's like 3 counties I could find this. You pick an intersection, like I say, Beachmont and Mount Carmel, Tabasco. And it would show go immediately there on the map and show you all the lots. We don't have something like that on our site that I can find. I get to see a massive map of the county and keep zooming in for 5 minutes trying to get it to line up and jumping off to different things versus something that makes it a lot easier for people to drill in. I just think there's so many ways we can become more state-of-the-art than we are today.
Thank you, Mr. Hicks. Next question. What actions can you, as auditor, take if money is slated to be spent in an improper way?
Hey, I have a couple of auditor friends from South Carolina. Okay, and one of them told me the story that he had come into office after a person had been an auditor for 30 years and they just retired. They retired and came into office, and he found out there was very much collusion between the auditor and the commissioners in the South Carolina county, and so he thought it was wrong. He's kind of like me, and he wanted to have right checks and balances and separation of functions. And he went and told the commissioners there was something they wanted to do. I can't remember what it was. It had something to do with putting something on a tax bill that the commissioners did. And he went and told them that if I put a tax on the citizen's bill that is improper, that has not been done in a legal and proper way, it's a felony on me. He said the day I first told the commissioners that, it was like their eyes got this big. Okay, because he says, I'm not going to put anything on the tax bill that's not been done proper. Okay? Similarly, I'm not going to have a warrant go out for dispersing money if it's not done proper. Now, people get afraid because I think in the history of Clermont County, there was an auditor back in the day before Linda Fraley that there was issues with not paying bills, getting in, So I want to assure people that I'm about 2 things: unbelievable efficiency, but also making sure that we're doing things properly and just saying no if it's not proper. Just saying no. I think I've proven in the stuff that I've done so far that I'm not going to be intimidated. I'm not going to be afraid to say no if something's not done properly. But at the same time, I realize how important the function is. And let me just expand on it a little bit. There was somebody running for commissioner who I think he's a great guy. He's one of our trustees in Union Township, John McGraw. And he had somebody tell him, pull him off to the side at a meeting and say, hey, I want to support you for commissioner, but I can't do it publicly. And John's like, okay, whatever. And he said, because the commissioners and you will control my budget. And I'm afraid of what would happen if they know that I'm supporting you, okay? Now, I'm of the mind, I'm the same with everybody. If I want to hang out with you, you're my best friend versus I don't like you too much or you don't like me too much. The government and the resources are not for the elected officials, they're for the people that they serve. So if somebody does something petty to cut off money to an agency or a function or a judge or a court that's there for the people, it's not the money for that judge or that court or that agency. That money is to serve the citizens. So I would never do anything that blocked efficient dissemination. If anything, I want to figure out how we can legally get money to the right places as fast as possible. You go out in townships, and I'd have to get more into it, but you go out in townships and they're, well, from when the property tax bills come in, we don't get clear enough optics on when we're going to get paid out the money. We have budgetary crises, so on and so forth. I want to make that much more efficient. It's very important, especially the smaller townships and to the schools, that there is an exceptionally efficient disbursement process happening because those are such vital functions within our county. And they're also functions that are important for our county being competitive with other counties. So.
Thank you, Mr. Hicks. The next question. What is your stance on right to work?
Hey, one of the things I'm going to give you my stance on right to work, okay? I'm for right to work, okay? Now, so I'm totally for. Even though my dad is a retired union elevator installer. Okay, and he worked in Cincinnati and he lived in Bethel because he liked living on a little farm in Bethel. So I understand that. My mom and dad were divorced, so I went and would spend weekends with my dad in Bethel. So during the week, I grew up in Mount Washington, rode on the bus. I worked for Guardian Angels Church, rode on the bus downtown. Every week I had to go pick up movies at the Archdiocese and so forth. Then on the weekend, I'd go to Bethel, and my half-brothers would beat the heck out of me in the hayloft of the barn. We'd ride horses, and we would go in the pond, and my dad would say, "Don't go out too far because there's snapping turtles." So I was definitely afraid of losing a toe the whole time. But one of the things I love about Auditor is that, and what really got me excited about the role actually, is that the auditor is not a policy-making role. Okay, they don't make the decisions. Commissioners make the decisions. Okay, so the auditor function doesn't decide. I'll give you a good example. There's probably, if I said, let's have a show of hands, who's for and against TIFs? Who's for and against JEDs? You know what I'm talking about. We'd have all kind of opinion in this room. Okay, I have my own opinions, but one of the things I think is great is the auditor is not a decision-making on what's right and wrong. The auditor's responsibility is make sure we do things properly. So if we're going to do a TIF, we've done it legally, properly, transparently. If we're going to do a JED, we've done it legally, properly, transparency. So I have my view on right to work. I'm for it. Okay, both public and private sector right to work, but it's not a decision that the auditor is going to be directly or frankly that much indirect. Unless I give money to John Becker, I'm not going to be directly or indirectly involved in the right to work decisions that are made within our state legislature. I also had somebody, I just want to expand, I said something, because sometimes I give you see how my campaign literature it says, I'll even make buying dog tags easier. Okay, and somebody went on a rant on Facebook. By the way, my Facebook is very entertaining because I don't delete anything. Okay, you see everybody going on rants on me and all that kind of stuff. But if I go, if I look at the dog tags, somebody went on a rant on me on Facebook about how dog tags are unconstitutional. Okay, it's an overreach of the government. Okay, I'm sorry. Okay, I'm going to follow the laws of the state of Ohio. Okay, if you believe that the dog tags are unconstitutional or anything else, then you should talk to John Becker or Doug Green or whoever the next reps are in those seats. They're the legislative people. As auditor, I'm going to follow the law. I'm going to do it properly. I'm going to do it completely transparently.
Well, your last word leads us into the next question, Mr. Hicks. Transparency is often an overused word. In your words, as auditor, what would transparency look like to you if you were elected to public office?
So that's a very true statement. And I tell people that typically I'm a business guy running for office for the first time. When you hear people in the political world that use the word transparency a lot, I get suspicious. Okay? Because it's such an overused word. Before you get to just the word transparency, I think a big important thing is for any elected official to appreciate and realize that it's your money. It's not their money, it's your money. It's not their records, it's your records. Okay? They're called public records. Why? They're your records. They're public records. You make a request for public records. So for me, transparency means that we make available to the citizens what they need to have the most effective and efficient decisions, and we actually try to surface it for them. We try to surface it for them. I'll tell you a real quick story. In Union Township, the administrator's name is Ken Geist, and he's a genius. Some people love him, some people hate him. I think everybody respects him. Okay? And he said when he came into that job, people would come into the office in Union Township and ask for records. It was the same 5 or 6 usual suspects would come in all the time. And he's like, you could tell they had this kind of relationship with the people at the front desk. So he pulled the people in the front desk in the back room and he said, do we have anything we're trying to hide? Now in Union Township, there was a time they probably did have stuff they were trying to hide. You know, if we go back and look at news reports from back some years ago. And they're like, no, we don't have anything we're trying to hide. He said, here's what I wanted you to do. Anytime somebody asks you for a record or they ask you for something, I want you to not only give them what they asked for, but I want you to say what else could be helpful to them. on the topical area. I want to get you to give them more than they asked for. He told me the story, and I can hear you from my office, so I'm gonna make sure you're doing it, okay? Within about a month, he said, none of these 6 people came in anymore. Okay? So here's the thing that's funny. The code section, ORC 149.43, that's public records. It's great. I'm so shocked that elected people put this in, politicians put this in our law, that says you have the right to records. There's a line in that that says, you know, here's the line, here's the standard. That's the floor. That's the line. I tell people, when you come to transparency and records, that's the line that if we do anything less than this line, we're breaking the law. That's not the standard, right? That's the bottom that we are before we're breaking the law. So my view is a big part of the way our whole government is engineered should be around transparency as a core principle, that you can see stuff, you can see it online, you can get to it, you can drill down. It's consistent. So Ms. Fraley would say she has a transparency tool, okay? I've used the transparency tool. It doesn't hold a candle to what the online checkbook is. And one of the beauties about the online checkbook, it's at every level of government. You can go to your township, your school, your this, it's the same tool. So transparency means that you can get the information, you can do it online or anonymously, you can when you come in, the people give you more than you asked for, okay? And you can make heads or tails of it. Right now, when you look at your property tax bill, you probably really can't understand how much of that money is going to the schools versus the county versus my township. And I tell you what, I've had people tell me, you can go into the office and spend an hour with them and still not understand. So my thing will be to have you not only be able to get the information, but to try to assemble it in ways that allow you to have better insight, transparent insight as to how your money is being spent, where it's really going.
Thank you, Mr. Hicks. You may have touched on this before, but I will give you the question. What is your plan for innovation in the office?
What is my plan for innovation in the office? So we'll be super innovative, it's going to be unbelievable. So I think that one of the things that you learn in the consulting world is if you think about every organization like a circle, okay, like a circle like this. And an organization is going to be inward facing or outward facing. What do I mean by that? An inward facing organization, all the people stand in that circle and they face inward looking at each other. And then what do next? They start, excuse my language, they start pissing on each other, fighting, arguing, debating, okay? Then there's an outward facing organization. That's when everybody in the organization is facing their backs to each other because they're facing outward towards the people they serve. So one of the key things I would do for innovation within the office is make sure that we instill the concept that we are going to be an outward facing organization. At a pizza party last night, there was a guy who sitting with his tax bill, and you might think it's a ridiculous story, but he got told that he basically got the short shrift in the office. I'll leave it at that, okay? And he told me the whole story about what happened. My point is that those people, love them or hate them, that come in at that desk in the auditor's office, they are our customers. They're the ones that make our jobs possible, okay? They are to be treated with respect. We are always going to be an outward-facing organization. So beyond that, I had, if you go to my website, hickswatchdog.com, there's actually my 12-point innovation plan. And I have a printout of it here, but I'm not going to rattle it off. Within those 12 points, none of it's rocket science. It's all stuff that other counties are already doing. That's how I came up with it. I went and before I decided to run, I went and did a little research project of best practices of other counties in their auditor function and took what I thought were the top 12 that were doable, practical, because there's also nothing like telling a staff, the things that we're going to do here, other people have already done. And so part of innovation is phasing it in a way that is, innovation means change. Change makes people uncomfortable. I make people uncomfortable because I represent change. Innovation is always change. Change makes people uncomfortable. So it's good to focus on changes that people know they can do. Other people have done it, right? We can rely on them. So.
Thank you, Mr. Hicks. We're getting toward the end. We have
All
time
right.
for 2 more questions.
Great.
Do you promise to never ask county employees to campaign for you?
Absolutely. And here's my other. This is my shocking thing I'm going to say here tonight. Okay, if I am elected auditor, my name will not be on the pump stickers. okay? I think even candidates that use their office as a way to get their name out in the public, we need to move away from this. We need to move away from this, right? And we're slowly doing it, but we got to start thinking these are functions of the people. They're not, my office isn't also a campaign platform. I've already pledged that there is no way I'm going to run for more than 2 terms. I don't work that way, okay? My mind, I'll get impatient. Once I get everything fixed, it'll be like, okay, what's the next big challenge over the horizon? So I'm going to get stuff fixed, get it straightened out, and then get us to a state-of-the-art, true state-of-the-art system, and then move on. So absolutely no, I think that is wrong. So I think it's wrong. I think any of those kind of things are wrong. I also think that I would be a champion of across our county government having proper job descriptions for every job. There's too many jobs, I think, that are made up, loosey-goosey type things. People get moved around. Even in corporate America, that can happen, to be honest. It can happen. But in our county, we should have jobs with performance metrics and standards, and never should employees be expected or in any way pressured or coerced in terms of campaign activities or anything like that.
Thank you, Mr. Hicks. And our last question. What are the most important characteristics that will make a good auditor for Clermont County?
I got to think about this, because I would go to my normal 2 things, that we move our county, that we get rid of the good old boy network in our county, and we move towards a county based on honesty, integrity, and respect for the people as our customers. So somebody who has a complete commitment to that is something that's very important in the auditor's office. The other thing is somebody that can look at the auditor's office in terms of all the little functions that it is, from licensing junkyards to whatever the heck, there's tons of them, okay, is as a opportunity, each of those things is opportunity for improvement and integration. So somebody that can come at it like a project. Can you imagine how daunting it is? You notice when the Republican Party did not endorse either Mr. Ubel or Ms. Fraley, 2 other people jumped in the ring to run for commissioner after Mr. Ubel wasn't endorsed. Nobody jumped in the ring to run for auditor. Why? It's a hard job. There's lots of stuff you can screw up. There's a big heap of responsibilities, okay? So it's a very serious job. And I look forward, my background is as a Fortune 100 management consultant. I've worked in 50 countries around the world, at least, that's more than 50. And I look forward to bringing the type of skills that involves into our auditor's office, and also bringing some of those learnings that I've had and all that experience into the auditor's office. We can do so much better for our people if we get, as a secondary attribute, a key attribute being a relentless focus on improvement, on performance metrics, on being outward facing. And I'm trying to, within the parameters, it's government, it's not a business, it's government. So it's not the same thing, and I can't make it the same thing, but that we inject where we can those business-like principles that can make it more responsive and effective for the citizens that it's meant to serve.
Thank you, Mr. Hicks. You will now have 4 minutes for a closing statement, and you can also mention anything that was not addressed by the questions that you would like to.
Anything that was not addressed by the questions. So, well, okay, so I'm going to do my closing statement in 2 parts. Nobody asked a question about, one of the things that's thrown out about Chris Hicks is, Chris Hicks, doesn't he have lawsuits against the county? Okay, yes. Now, there are 3 areas in which I have and persist having legal actions or issues with the county. Okay, or different entities around it. One is about First and 14th Amendment rights. Many of you that know I got thrown out of a meeting for wanting to talk about our CBB being taken over during public participation time. I got a protection order against me for the first time ever. I had somebody serving me some papers at the door of any house I've lived in. Okay? I was locked out of multiple meetings. I did not receive due process, and I should absolutely be taking action against our county. And all they have to do is something very simple. It's not about money. If anybody that checks, people don't make money off of civil rights type lawsuits. It's not a money thing. It's about getting change. That the county says, We're gonna change our rules of participation in meetings. We're gonna commit that this type of thing will never happen again. So that's one area. Second area is tax dollar transparency. It is absolutely ridiculous that the CVB, while being taken over by government officials, spent $3.5 million of tax dollars and won't tell us who they spent it with. And anybody that says, well, it's a transient tax. Well, what does that mean? The commissioners can put it in their pockets then, because it's a transient tax, because it comes from people that stay at hotels and they're not locals? I always remind people, does that mean that if somebody comes from Hamilton, from Anderson Township to Eastgate and spends money, the sales tax isn't really mine? I'm the citizen of Clermont County. When people have paid sales tax into Clermont County, it's our money at that point, okay? So my second area is around tax dollar transparency. You deserve 100% tax dollar transparency for where every received, dispersed, and controlled tax dollar of yours is getting spent. Who's getting the money? Who gets that money out of that? And the third thing is to try to root out sketchy behavior within our government. To try to root out sketchy behavior within our government. We don't need it. We got to hold ourselves to a higher standard. So all these things, backroom deals, nepotism, all that kind of stuff, we need to work against those and be vigilant, hold ourselves to the highest standard. And I'll continue to pursue those things. Now, since I addressed that because nobody asked that question, and I wanted to put it up front. Now, let me have my closing remarks. This might be, for many people here, the longest, certainly the longest period of time for all of anybody here, where you've got to see just Chris Hicks answering questions. I'm glad to do it. I'm glad to do it. My office line is 513-201-7902. Call me anytime. Okay? I have been demonized. Okay? I have been told, that I'm some evil character. It's not true. I'm a business guy that wants us to take back our government in this county. Our county is probably 20 to 30 years behind where it should be because of the old boy network and the things that we've had happen with commissioners, with the backroom deals, with so on and so forth. We're the only county in the state that's had 2 commissioners go on charges within a 10-year period. And if Mr. Ubel ultimately gets charged for his election fraud, we'll break the record. 3 commissioners in 10 years. So I represent change. I represent business skills. I represent a vision for honesty and integrity within our county and a vision for business-like efficiency. So I hope that you'll get to know me better, that you'll consider me, and you'll vote for the watchdog, Chris Hicks, on May 8th in the Republican primary, and that everybody appreciates how important the primary is in our county, because whoever wins the primary tends to win the general election. So thank you to the league, thank you to everyone. I appreciate this opportunity, and feel free to call me at any time, ask me any questions. And again, just thank you, and again, my sympathies to Miss Fraley and her family loss.
Thank you very much.